Welcome to another Monday Market Update with Kristen Mason Coreas, owner of the Homes by Mason team. Today is, February 10th, Monday, February 10th, and we are going to talk about what is happening in real estate in Northern Virginia and the DC metro area. So let's start as we usually do with interest rates. Interest rates are actually down a touch. That's good news. And so we're down 0.06 from last week. However, if you care to know, I like to look at these types of things. We always look at what's happening compared to last week, and we also look at what's happening compared to last year to see if we're going to continue to have the same trends as we did the year before. That's why we look at both. And so compared to last year, we're actually up 0.25% from last year. So that's relatively interesting that at this time last year, interest rates were lower. So then when we see what buyer activity is doing compared to last year, keep in mind here that the interest rates were lower at this time next year. So I would presume that means more buyer activity last year. And I don't remember if that played out in the stats. So let's take a look here in a minute. And so according to Freddie Mac, purchase applications are actually modestly above what they were a year ago. So that doesn't equate to what I just said, right? A year ago, interest rates were lower. So for purchase applications to be higher than they were a year ago is interesting. And according to Freddie Mac, indicates that there may be some latent demand in the market. Perhaps buyers who were waiting for interest rates to come down have decided to stop waiting and start buying. So that's maybe what's going on. Also, we'll talk about this in a minute. Yeah, right here. We start to talk about what's happening in our economy, right? So both what's happening in the economy, what's happening nationally, impacts what happens in the housing market, and certainly in our DC metro area for sure, what is happening in the federal government is going to play out in our local real estate market. And we're not exactly sure yet. I had a conversation, I'm having these conversations a lot lately, and I literally had a phone conversation earlier today about, hey, should we put our house on the market sooner than we planned because of what's happening? We just don't know yet. And so my answer to them is let's be ready and let's watch and be ready to act quickly if we think that we do need to act quickly, if we do start to see a tide of listings coming on the market. I think there's going to be pressure on both ends in our area. There's going to be some increased demand from people who are coming into our area that had been living away and working remotely and now need to work in the office. So some of those people might be coming looking for housing. And then some people who are opting into the early retirement program or the buyout program might say, bye-bye, DC. I'm going to go back to live close to my family and leave the area and might be selling. So I think we're going to see both pressure on demand and supply as a result of what's happening in the federal economy. That was not on my slide here, but what is on the slide is other information. So the tariffs on Canada and Mexico, you may have heard that Trump has threatened, have been delayed for 30 days. So according to people who are smarter than me about these things, that means it helps mortgage rates stay at current levels. Trump administration says that they're going to focus on driving the 10-year treasury yield down, which could help mortgage rates. I don't know how they're going to do that. So I need to know more information about whether that's possible or not, because a lot of things that this administration says they're going to do, I just never know. I just never know what's real and what's not real, frankly. So I will wait and see if they can actually do that or not. In terms of housing news, so data from the National Housing Information, purchase applications fell 4% from the previous week, and this is as of February 7th, though they were flat from the same week a year ago. So let's rewind and remember that interest rates are up from last year. So we would expect there to be more activity than there was last year. And so we have less applications compared to the previous week and flat compared to a year ago. So I can't remember now. I've been saying so many things. So interest rates were down from a week ago, but up from a year ago. So does that play out? So down from a week ago. So you would expect to see more mortgage applications if interest rates went down from a week ago. So again, there's a lot of factors, right? A lot of factors that goes into what happens on the ground in real estate. And so I try to keep my eyes on all of the things. It's hard to know. And obviously you can see different factors, different pressures may have a result with different results. So Realtor.com reports more sellers are offering price cuts compared to last year. And that is interesting. That does show up a little bit later in our data, that for the first time in a long time, I actually did see the median listing price come down both week over week and year over year. So we'll see if that's a trend that continues or not. And then back to those tariffs that Trump is threatening, that could impact our real estate market in terms of new home construction. So new home construction imports materials. And so if there are tariffs on imports, then that will make home building more expensive and possibly be passed on to the consumer. You might be hearing my dog barking. I'm not going to yell at him. Normally I'd yell at him right now to say be quiet, but I'm not going to do that because I'm live. So we're just going to have to listen to the barking dog in the background. Hopefully it's not too loud for you. In the not Northern Virginia yet. We're in the Mid-Atlantic region. So including Virginia, DC, Maryland, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Delaware, and New Jersey as of February 2nd. The market activity has been slower, they say, but someone is about to walk in my door and I need to tell her not to walk in my door. That's why the dog is barking. So let me text her right now. So they say slower, but actually I would say that contracts being down doesn't necessarily mean a slower market. It does mean less activity. So I kind of disagree with the wording that they're using right there. That contracts being down, slow for me is time on market. So I would just kind of restate what they're stating there. And new listings are below 2024 levels. After 2 weeks of increases, there's been a decline from 2024 in terms of new listings, but then active inventory is healthier than last year. So again, some contradictory factors there, that the active inventory is healthy, but new listings are less. So if new listings continue to be less, then that will have a downward pressure on the active inventory if we're not making up the inventory that gets eaten up by buyers. So what's happening in the greater DC metro area as of February 2nd? Showings are down from last year. So what did we say? Interest rates were down from last week, but up from last year. So that might make some sense. Interest rates are up from last year. So less showings compared to last year, less contracts compared to last year, longer on the market by 8 days. And new listings are down, like we saw in the Mid-Atlantic region. Median list price is basically flat, and active listings, as we saw, a healthy inventory, up by 22.4%. Compared to a week ago, showings are up. So that does make some sense. Does it? I keep forgetting now. Everything's like up and down and up and down. So interest rates are down from last week. So from last week, interest rates are down, which means that showings would go up. That makes some sense. So showings up by 5%, purchase contracts up by 6.5%, time to contract longer by only 1 day. New listings in this case up by 10%, and median list price down, active listings up a touch by 1%. So in our area, new listings and active listings are up compared to last week. So again, there's a lot of different things going on, not necessarily a lot of trends. We can't grab hold of too many patterns right now. We just need to continue to watch and see what's happening in the real estate market these days. There's just so much happening every day in different directions, right? So it's hard to know where to focus sometimes these days. We like to focus on the hyperlocal market. So that's Fairfax, Falls Church, Arlington, Alexandria. is where we do most of our business at Homes by Mason. And so looking at the data for specifically that area from February 3rd to yesterday, February 9th, you can actually see that, oops, that's not what I meant to do. I meant to do that. New listings are down a touch week over week. So that tracks with that Mid-Atlantic trend. And however, new contracts were up relatively significantly, up by 17%. So 17% more contracts compared to the week before. So that leaves you with an 83, almost 83.5% demand to supply ratio. So there's some inventory left over. But as I said earlier, if our new listing inventory shrinks and the buyer demand continues, then that would lead us down the path of not having enough homes again, which is frankly what we are worried about, as I was talking about earlier, is that in our area, if people are losing their jobs or leaving their jobs and leaving the area, we are worried that we might end up with a increase of inventory in our area, which would be good for buyers, not so good for sellers. So it remains to be seen what is going to happen in our area. So keep watching and with me, and I will keep you up to date each week. And if you ever want to find out what's happening specifically in your area and how it might impact you and your decisions, reach out anytime. Down below, you will find a link you can actually schedule to get onto my calendar, or call me or text me at 571-210-1866 is probably the best way. You could also email me at kristen@homesbymason.com, but call, text, or schedule would be the best. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next week. Enjoy your week.